What's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and we got a great show for you guys today as Jason McCourty was talking about Jalen Ramsey and discussing some teams that could trade for him. And he actually threw out the Minnesota Vikings, and he said he would be a big fan of Jalen Ramsey heading to Minnesota. So we'll talk about that on today's show. And then also later, we will be going live here on the channel, breaking down OTAs. Media is there for day 2. And a little sneak peek here, J.J. McCarthy looks fantastic. But speaking about Jalen Ramsey, do you guys want the Vikes to trade for Jalen Ramsey? If you do, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon. But if you guys are against the Jalen Ramsey trade, probably in the minority there, just comment why down below. Love chopping up with you guys in the comment section. But if you guys want the Vikes to trade for Ramsey, hit that thumbs up icon. But if not, comment why down below. All right, let's dive into it. Let's discuss, the pros, the cons. Also get you guys a quote from Ben Goessling, who has some inside information if the Vikings are interested in this deal. But I do want to start off here talking about what Jason McCourty had to say on the Vikings trading for Jalen Ramsey, saying this: I think the Vikings, what Brian Flores does with his defensive backs, Jalen Ramsey is so talented and can play so many different positions: slot, safety, corner. I think that would be a ton of fun. And I agree with Jason on that. Like, in terms of just a scheme fit, in terms of teams that could trade for Jalen Ramsey, the Vikings have to be on the top of that list. But there is, no doubt in my mind that Ramsey will get traded at some point this offseason, but still when and to what team remain unclear. Now, there is a very important date coming up, June 2nd, which allows the Dolphins more cap flexibility to trade Jalen Ramsey. And Ramsey, funny enough, yesterday on Twitter, tweeted out number 5. Now, this could mean two things. He's just tweeting out his jersey number, but I do think him adding the ... at the end of that, when he tweeted this out, it was 5 days away from June 2nd. So if we get a Jalen Ramsey tweet today where it's 4... pretty much telling me he will get traded on June 2nd, and hopefully it's just for the Minnesota, or hopefully it's to the Minnesota Vikings. But cue up the SpongeBob meme here. I need it. I need a Jalen Ramsey trade. I don't know if this is just the natural cycle of the NFL offseason where I just need some Vikings juice in my life. But, specifically on the field here, I think it would make a ton of sense. Like, he is a very versatile player. Vikings have a need at that second cornerback spot. Obviously they're banking on guys like Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Blackman taking that next step. But you have a proven commodity in Jalen Ramsey, who also has a connection to Kevin O'Connell. He was offensive coordinator when Ramsey was with the Rams, and they won a Super Bowl, so it makes a ton of sense. But could the Vikings be interested? Well, Ben Goessling had this to say yesterday. I wouldn't rule it out. I think it's certainly worth keeping in mind just because of the need and the familiarity with him from a lot of that coaching staff, having been with him with the Rams. So, this is definitely a conversation the Vikings front office is having because Ramsey's a hell of a player. And plus, Kevin O'Connell already familiar with him. Maybe this is just them doing their due diligence and trying to, to see all the possibilities on how they could get a Jalen Ramsey trade done. But in terms of draft capital, it wouldn't really run the Vikings that much. I just think it would be a 5th-round pick to go and land Ramsey, which, a 5th-round pick for the Vikings and how their roster's constructed right now, where they're viewing these next 3 years as a Super Bowl window. Like, is there any player in the 5th round that you're going to draft that will be on the level of Jalen Ramsey? You truly never know, but I think a 5th-round pick is very fair for a guy. Yes, his contract is a doozy, and we'll dive into that, but for just a 5th, I think I would do it. So, in terms of the Dolphins side of things, so right now they have $14 million in cap space. Ramsey's current cap hit is $16.66 million. Now, if they were to trade him pre-June 1, that's why that June 2nd date is so important, they would actually lose $12.5 million. But if they decide to trade him post-June 1, you see at the top right of your screen, they would actually clear up around $6 million there, getting them around $18 million in dead money in 2026. But the new team cash owned would be $21 million. So if Ramsey is traded, keep this in mind. This is the contract the Vikings would be taking on. It would still be 4 years of Ramsey, a guy who is 30 years old, but I can really see him still having maybe 1 or 2 years of high-level play. Now, there are some potential outs in like 27 and 28, but he would be a free agent in 29. But for this contract, that's the biggest reason why it wouldn't cost, the Vikings a 3rd or a 4th-round pick to trade for him. But I guess I'll just ask you guys this, because it is definitely interesting, because you got the contract, you got a guy who is a little older. I don't know. What would you guys do? Let's just say the Dolphins call you. You're GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Are you giving up a 2026 fifth-round pick for Jalen Ramsey and taking on that contract, but you're also getting a very good player? You guys let me know. A for accept or D for decline. I would 100% trade for Jalen Ramsey if I'm the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, you are taking on that contract. You got to give up a draft pick. But I think with where the Vikings are at right now, they are in a spot to make a luxury move. And Jalen Ramsey is a luxury move. Now, if the Vikings were in a position where, let's just say, like the New Orleans Saints or the Carolina Panthers, where they don't really have true big time Super Bowl aspirations, then I would be against trading for Jalen Ramsey. But the Vikings have made it clear: 25, 26, and 27. While McCourty is on that rookie deal, that's their Super Bowl window. So yes, you are taking on that contract, but you got a QB on a rookie contract. So take advantage of that, and I would 100% be in on a Jalen Ramsey trade. Now, we'll talk about that a little more in depth here in a second. But hey, if you guys want to get some new Minnesota Vikings gear, we got a deal for you guys right now. Where hoodies are up to 50% off. If you click this link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. I have that for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show. These are all super fresh. I love this one coming up here, the big MIN. It's sweet. I'm going to be probably getting one of these at some point this week. I've been stalling out on this. But I got this link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show. Hoodies are up to 50% off, so give it a look. They're awesome. And plus, anytime you get some more Minnesota Vikings gear on a good deal, I think it's a good thing. So hit that link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. All right, let's look at Ramsey's just raw production over the last 4 seasons. Now, I do think when evaluating cornerbacks, these stats can be very misleading. I think really when it comes to the cornerback position, you really just got to throw on the tape. But in terms of his raw numbers, 11 PBUs this past season in 17 games. He's been fairly healthy besides the 2023 season. And in 22, solid 18 PBUs, 21, 16 PBUs with 4 interceptions in both of those seasons. But this past year, PFF graded him out fairly well on a Miami defense that was not that good. They had a better second half of the year than they started, but still, 16th overall rated corner out of 222 eligible guys. 76.9 overall grade, pass rush 76.5, run defense 85.7, which is huge. Flores asked his corners to really step up in the run game, but then even in coverage, still pretty solid, 71.9. But where would Ramsey kind of fit in with this Vikings cornerback room? I think if you trade for him, he automatically slots in as CB2, which would be a fantastic situation because then that would allow Byron Murphy, who I do think he excels more in the slot than he does outside, but again, his versatility is a weapon. Same with Jalen Ramsey. You could just mix and match Byron Murphy, but I do think the trickle-down effect of if you just slot Byron Murphy into that CB2, then you got Rodgers, Blackman at that CB3, CB4, and then you still got guys like McLaurin, Jeff Okudah slotting in there. It just adds more depth to this room. So I am all in on this. I know this may be like I'm going to call it like an Instagram commenter take where it's like everybody, acts like they're playing like Madden in terms of these trades. They're like, oh, I want that guy, I want that guy, I want that guy. But in this specific situation and how the Vikings roster is set up, I do think it makes a lot of sense. You have a great defensive coordinator. Ramsey's already familiar with Kevin O'Connell and the culture he wants to build, and this guy wants to win. He's been a winner in the past. I mean, even dating back when he was with the Jaguars back in 2017 when they made the AFC Championship, he was one of the most impactful players on that team. And then even with the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, he was a high-impact guy. I think he could have the same impact for the Minnesota Vikings. So I understand the contract. I understand it would take a draft pick, but I would be all in on it. But I do want to close out today's show talking about this quote from Kay Adams. She was talking with Jason McCourty when McCourty dropped this quote, and Kay said this: I've been saying all offseason that the Vikings have no excuse to not win the Super Bowl. I will respect Kay Adams for being really the only person in NFL media that, puts Super Bowl expectations on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I will say, I think with J.J. McCarthy in his first year starting, that shouldn't be our expectations because, there's only one team. There's only 2 teams that can make the Super Bowl. One team wins it, and I just think when you put that pressure on them, I just don't want to see the fan base turn where it's like, let's just say the Vikings go 10-7. McCarthy, has an up and down year, and maybe they lose in the wild card. I don't want everybody freaking out. Like, the kid's still 22 years old. Take time with this. It's going to be a long process, but who knows? Who knows? Anything can happen any given year in the NFL, but I do respect Kay Adams for saying that. But what do you guys think? First year, J.J. McCarthy starting. Are the Vikes Super Bowl contenders? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. And tune in for our live show later on today. We'll be live probably around 4:30 Central Time. So tune in then. We'll see y'all next time. As always, Skol Vikes.